picking up chapter 2 today. Alright, so Genesis chapter 2. Just point out a couple things again. Yeah, we'll keep talking along with this. So it should be a pretty smooth sailing day. Alright, so scripture expressing to tell you those that are author and not my own view instructions that lies. So guidelines to a lesson. Remember that all things be done with decency and order, so it's no goes better served by another. So these lessons are intended to be interactive. So please ask all questions by saying these to the microphone so that everybody can hear you. We're going to be mindful of the time, so please limit responses to references to six or less to give others an opportunity to ask questions and give input. We want to stay on topic, so if you have questions that do not pertain to the topic of the lesson, please hold those until after the study, and this will help us better serve your question and give it the proper attention it deserves. If we move on from the point and you don't get a chance to ask your question or make your statement, if by the end of the study it still hasn't been addressed, please hold it to the end of the study and we can revisit it. Alright, so disclaimer, these are being recorded and going online on YouTube. Alright, so just be aware everybody's on well, I ain't gonna say everybody's faces like that, but they will hear you. Alright, so make sure you say that in your microphone so people online can hear you. Alright, so picking up where we left off. And it's just one of those days. It's just one of those days. But all praises, we're gonna get it together. Alright, so picking up where we left off. So last week we looked at Genesis 1:26 and 27, right? We talked about who the us was when they said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, right? But then we saw in the next verse it said, and Elohim made the man in his image and likeness. So we saw it went from plural back to singular, right? We explored the idea of a quote-unquote Trinity, right? And then we also explored the alternative idea, which is, maybe this is just a divine counsel, right? So we're going to move on past that, and we're going to pick up where we left off. All right, so Genesis 1:26, it says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the ground. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creeping creatures on the earth. And Elohim said, see, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you is for food, and to every beast of the field, of the earth, to every bird of the heavens, and to every creature on the earth, in which there is a living being, every green plant is for food, and it came to be so. And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. It was so ill. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the sixth day. Alright, so now I got a question. What does it mean to be created in the image and likeness of God? What does that mean? What is it even talking about? And it is an open question. So now, I'm gonna try to look at it. Yeah. I keep saying it was things. Alright. We're gonna keep pushing. All praises. So, alright, age 67:54. Alright, so it's from an unused root leading to shade of things that is figuratively illusion, resemblance, hence a representative figure, especially in idol, image, things. Alright, so the same word that's being used for making idols, right? You make something in the image and likeness of something. That's really what it's talking about, right? A resemblance, a representative figure, right? Now, keep in mind that we was made in the image and likeness of who? The Most High. All right. So something about us is supposed to be a representative of Elohim, right? Ron Jarvis Green's definition: images. They say if someone's mighty, Elohim. This is the same word that's used in the story itself. What I want us to focus on is the image, likeness, resemblance. Alright. Image, likeness, and a resemblance. Resemblance. It's something about us that's supposed to resemble Most High. And then we got our word to move for likeness. So resemblance again. Resemblance. Now you make us in this image and likeness. Right? So now you got a resemblance, concretely a model. Right? Shape, like fashion, like manner, and similitude. Alright? From the root word H1819, the model. To compare. So something about us should be able to be compared to the Most High. Right? Now, whatever it is, I'm going to leave it up to you to discern and decipher. If you think this is talking about a physical representation, two eyes, nose, mouth, or is this maybe a little bit deeper than that, and it's something about his nature that we're also supposed to be in resemblance of. Right? And then again, it's something that's devised into new similitudes. So something about us is supposed to be similar to the Most High. Alright. So we're going to jump to Genesis 2 and 7. Alright, now, I purposely skipped 1 through 6 because it's talking about Shabbat, right? He worked 6 days, on the 7th day he rested, right? I think we all get that. For the sake of time, I didn't want to belabor that too much, and I definitely didn't want to go into a Shabbat lesson. How to keep the Shabbat, all of those things. Right? I'm going to save that for its own study on its own, right? But jumping in at verse 7, it says, Yahuwah Elohim formed a man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. All right, so the plan was to create the man in his image and his likeness. Something about the creation of this man is supposed to resemble me. Something about this man is supposed to be similar to me. I'm making him almost like a model, modeling them after me. He forms the man from the dust of the ground, and then he breathes into his nostrils, his breath of life. And then the man became a living soul. All right. It says that Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. So now, before I even get to that, remember what we said about creation, right? That what happens if you take a fish out of water? Okay, what happens if you take a bird out of the air and you start to put the bird underwater? Right, well, we go underwater. Right, so everything has an element, an environment that is best suited for it. And that's not to say you can't take a fish and put it in a fish tank. And it'll live, but will it flourish? Will it thrive? No. Right? It can survive. But will it flourish? No. Right? So everything has this proper environment where it's going to be able to maximize and get the most out of it. Right? Where did you put the man? You put him in the garden. So we're going to get back to this because what I remember I said a couple weeks ago that everything as far as how he created the earth, you can see that on a macro scale, but then you can also see that working within you. And that there's something about when we are in tune with that and we observe that it gets us in tune with him, right? Like, this is the reason why how many of the parables were agricultural, how many of the parables were directly something that they was dealing with in their environment. And it's a deeper level of wisdom beyond just what meets the eye, right? And we see cases where Shaul was like, those are the ox as it treads the corn. But did he write that command for the ox or for our sake? Right? So I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's something that to be gained when man is in that environment, right? But then we're going to see, not to get too far ahead, but by the time we get to chapter 5, man is taken out of this environment. And then you start to notice other stuff gets introduced. I don't want to get ahead because we're going to get there. But just keep that in mind, all right? So notice here that Elohim gave the man something that caused him to become a living soul. What did he give him, and what does it mean to become a living soul? Like, I'm getting real technical, but it's nuance and it's details to this, right? So y'all remember, what was that, a couple months ago, we was talking about, like, you got parts and aspects of your being. You got a conscience, then you got the Ruach. But Ruach is not necessarily the same as your conscience, right? But all of these things are all within your being and all within your vessel, if you will, that makes you you, right? So this quote-unquote breath of life, right? This breath. Now, usually when we think of breath, we think of what? What, Lord? Is anybody doing? Did I hear somebody say? There we go. I'll praise this. Ruach. We usually think, when we hear breath, we usually think Ruach. That's not what this is. Right? So this is something a little bit different. You're going to get a Ruach as well, but this is something a little bit different. All right? So, H5397, Neshama. All right, so from H5395, a puff, that is wind, an angry or a vital breath of divine inspiration and intellect. All right, so I want y'all to hold on to that, to the intellect. All right? Or concretely, an animal, a blast, something that breathes, that has this quote unquote divine inspiration, this inspiration, soul, or spirit. All right? This is, at this point, the man is just a living thing. All right? Like, just a living thing. Okay? But with that, and it being a living thing, it also has a quote-unquote intellect. Right? It has the ability to think. So, like, we know that animals are different than us, right? Animals are a little bit different. Like, I'm gonna ask you this: would we say that the animal is made in the image and likeness of Elohim? No, right? But the man is. So what I'm trying to get at is, I want us to start getting into figuring out what it is that makes us different from them. Because also, if you look, anybody ever had a dog or a cat, or like they got plenty of sense.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a living thing with its own character, own personality. It thinks, like, it's capable of doing a whole lot, right? So what is it that's making us different? Like, they have an intellect. They're a living, breathing thing. What is it that makes us different? And what is it that separates us and makes us in his image and likeness? So we're gonna keep going. All right, so in intellect, all right. All right, in intellect. Psalm 150, verse 6, same word in the Neshama. All right. Let everything that has breath or in the Neshama praise Yah. All right? Everything that has breath. Proverbs 20:27. The spirit of man is the candle of Yahuwah. The Neshama is intellect, right? It's divine inspiration, it's breath. This thing is keeping you, quote unquote, alive, which that's going to be the next. He gave him the breath of life. That's the other part of it. We're going to get to that in a second. But the spirit of man is the candle of you who is searching all the inward parts of the belly. Right? And that word for belly is the same for like a womb or a hollow part. Right? So just a question to throw out there. Could it be that this Neshama will shine light on what seed is planted? Like, how does this work? What is it about this quote-unquote intellect, this breath of life that he is giving you that's connecting back with him where it's shining light on the things that's within you? Right? So just, again, keep all of that in mind. Job 32:6. And Eliyahu, the son of Barachiel, the Buzai, answered and said, I am young, and you are very old, wherefore I was afraid, and dared not show you my opinion. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom, but there is a spirit in man. Now, there is a ruach in man. Okay? And the inspiration, the neshama of El Shaddai gives them understanding. All right, so something about this neshama, this breath of life, the Father wants you to use that for a specific purpose. Right? It's supposed to be doing what? It searches all the inward parts of your belly. Right? Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. So, as we continue up to this point, have y'all heard me say anything about wisdom? Have y'all heard me say anything about his ruach? Have y'all heard? So, we always ask, like, man, how did they do this? Like, man, they should have known better. How did they fall for it? But we're going to see that it's a process, just like it is with us, where you're born with a certain thing, and then it's like wine. Like with age, certain things are like almost like an acquired taste. You gain certain things along the way, right? All praises. So here's the word for life, Kai. Something that's living, alive, green of vegetation, right? Now again, he gave them the breath of life. The plants have this life, right? But they're not making the image and likeness of Elohim. Again, it's something about us that sets us apart and makes us different. Something that we got that they don't have, right? Flowing something fresh of water, lively or active, reviving of the springtime. We get a living thing. Again, we see animal life, but then everything that is alive does what? Well, it dies, but what does it have to do to continue to stay alive? It's got to breathe, it's got to eat, right? Like anything, you stop eating anything that requires life and it's going to die, right? So this term here at the bottom, y'all see an appetite. All right, so man is created with an intellect and an appetite, right? So just keep that in mind up to this point.
Is that Hebrew?
That's Hebrew, yes sir.
What is the Hebrew word zoe?
Say it one more time, a little bit louder.
Hebrew word zoe.
Zoe?
Yeah.
Zoe. I'm not sure.
I thought that meant life.
I'm not sure. Usually whenever I'm looking at the Hebrew, I usually see Kai, Chaim. Like even when we into why he called Eve Eve. Her name is Eve because she was the mother of all living. It's this word right here. It's the root of her name.
Oh,
That's
okay.
But it is possible that there's other words that's out there that speaks of a living or of the essence of life. I'm just not familiar with it.
Okay.
All praises.
It's Greek.
Oh, it's Greek. Okay. Gotcha. So that for that.
I didn't know.
Yeah, all praises. Excellent question. So then you got they became living beings or living souls, right? What is a soul? Or a your being, what is that? That's the nefesh. Alright. So nefesh is your soul, it's yourself, life, creature, person. Again, we're talking about appetite. But now this is not just talking about the will to eat. Like the kai is more so just like your desire to physically eat to sustain life. But this kind of appetite is now talking about a spiritual appetite, right? What is your desires, right? Goes beyond just consuming food. Mind, living being, desire, emotion, passion, that which breathes, the breathing substance or being, soul, the inner being of man, a living being with life in the blood, the man himself, the person or the individual. So he breathed his breath of life in them, and then they became living souls. A whole thing with its own emotions, its own intellect, its own appetites, its own desires. Right? So it says the seat of the appetites, the seat of emotions and passions, the activity of the mind, the activity of the will, the activity of the character. Right? So he breathed his breath of life, this Nishmat Kayin into them, and then they became living souls. Alright? So now they have their own personality, character, appetite, all of those things. Alright? So far what we've seen is that he's creating them with a free will. Alright? But remember that Neshama, it searches, it's like a candle of Yahuwah, it searches the inward parts of the belly, right? So all of this is working. He's trying to see with them, what are you going to have an appetite for, right? I'm going to set all of this up. I'm going to give you everything, set you in this environment. Now I want to see what you do with it, right? So could it be that although man was given an intellect, where there was something that he was given an intellect, but there was still something that he would need to gain in order to have understanding, right? So we haven't heard anything about wisdom or understanding yet. Even though they had this free will, they got this appetite, desire, emotion, they have all of these things, but we haven't heard anything about wisdom or anything about understanding. Could it be that that the garden and his responsibilities in it was designed for him to gain this wisdom, right? So he placed him in this garden and gave him these responsibilities in the garden so that he could gain wisdom and understanding to go hand in hand with his own will, desire, appetite, and emotions, right? We good so far? All praises. Proverbs 8:1, we're going to hit this again. Does not wisdom cry and understanding put forth her voice? She stands at the top of high places. By the way, in the places of the path, she cries at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O you simple, understand wisdom, and you fools, be of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things. And the opening of my lips shall be right things, for my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness. There is nothing forward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understands, and right to them that find knowledge. So, again, just so far, wisdom is something that has to be acquired, right? It's crying out, but you have to hear wisdom in order to gain it. Right?
Got a
Say it one more time.
Like, this is knowledge,
Is this not like this is knowledge, correct?
It can be. Like, there is a slight difference though between just knowledge and wisdom, right? So knowledge is information. Wisdom is having the ability to understand the information and apply the information. So wisdom, if I had to pick between the two, I want wisdom over knowledge. But knowledge is still good, because you can't have wisdom without knowledge. All praises. So it says, I lead in the way of righteousness in the midst of the paths of judgment. It says, that I may cause those that love me to inherit substance, and I will fill their treasures. They will possess me in the beginning of his way, before his works of old, and I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning, wherever the earth was. When there were no depths, I was brought forth, and when there were no fountains abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills was I brought forth. While as yet he had not made the earth, nor the fields, nor the highest part of the dust of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth, when he established the clouds above, when he strengthened the fountains of the deep, when he gave to the sea his decree that the water should not pass his commandment, when he appointed the foundations of the earth. Then I was by him as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in the habitable part of his earth, and my delights were with the sons of men. Now therefore hearken unto me, O you children, for blessed are they that guard my ways. Hear instruction, or the word there is musar, or chastisement, and be wise and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that hears me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the post of my doors. For whoso finds me finds what? Life. All right, so now keep in mind, this is the same thing that he put in the man from the jump. All right? He that finds me finds life, and shall obtain favor of Yahuwah. But he that sins against me wrongs his own what? His own soul, his own being, his own nefesh. And they that hate me love death. All right, so we want to see that there was something that they that they needed in the garden to maintain the life. And because they didn't have wisdom, and they didn't set their appetite for wisdom, then they went astray. And then, like he said, he that sins against me wrongs his own soul or his own nefesh. Right? So could it be that the more the man worked in the garden, he would learn wisdom from Elohim? Remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about Solomon and how this was the thing that like stamped Solomon as the most wise, right? All of these parables, all his understanding, like Proverbs 6, go to the ant, you slug, learn of her ways. Like you can, if you just pay attention to how he created the earth and all of the things in it, it's much wisdom to be gained, right? Much wisdom to be gained. And he put him in this garden environment and gave him these specific tasks and responsibilities in this place so that he would learn it, right? So, in other words, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go back. Is it also possible that without this wisdom and discernment, man would not be able to differentiate good from evil? Right? So, you need this wisdom to be able to tell the difference between the two. In other words, he had the intellectual capacity to learn both, but did not yet have the wisdom to discern between the two. So, in a nutshell, he created us with the cognitive ability. Like Adam, Kyle, they were walking around, they could think for themselves, gain understanding for all sorts of things. You could tell them to do something, they could be obedient to what they was told. They had understanding, they had an intellect. But did they have wisdom? No, not yet. Right? So remember, we can see how the process of creation shows us how we can become new creations in. Alright, so that was something that was in there, but I cut it for the sake of time. We might come back around to it. Got something going.
Made or in the resemblance of Yahuwah is having the ability to know the difference between clean and unclean, good versus evil, knowing what he likes, what he doesn't like. So that's kind of like the resemblance of Yahuwah made in his image, having the ability to be able to know, okay, don't do this, do this. This is clean, this is not clean, this is good, this is evil.
All praises. Like I said, it's a resemblance, it's a model after a similitude after the Most High. So we're gonna continue and we'll see, like I said, because it's more than just this breath of life. Like it's more than just a nefesh, because it's more than just that too. You also got ruach, you got conscience, you got all of these things that are part of your what makes you you. They all supposed to work together to be wisdom. All of these things enter into you, and then that's what gets you back in alignment with the Father, which is, like I said, it's how we become quote unquote new creations in Yah, but you gotta be quote unquote born again. I don't want to get ahead of myself though on that because we don't see why that's necessary.
I want to stem off of the question he asked about knowledge. In Ecclesiastes 7:12, 7-12, it says, "For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it."
What scripture was it?
Ecclesiastes 7, 12. Yeah, I'll probably say 11, but yeah, 7:12.
All praises.
Can you explain what the wisdom is, just real quick?
Huh?
No, a line.
All praises. So
Don't ask me.
yeah, all praises. Like I said, wisdom is the ability to apply the knowledge, but we're not just talking about a carnal or earthly wisdom. We're talking about wisdom that is from on high. So for us, our wisdom is what? Keeping these laws, these statutes, these commandments. Right? It said that this will cause us to be the most wise nation. Like, what other nation is there as wise as this that has an Elohim this near to him? Right? That has commandments as righteous as these. Like, that's what our wisdom is, right? So, yeah, excellent question. All praises. So, Genesis 27. All right, so in Yahuwah Elohim formed a man, Ha'adam, of the dust of the ground, the Adamah. All right, so I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna explain it in a second. All right, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. And Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden in Eden, and there he put the man, the Ha'adam, whom he had formed. And out of the ground, the Adamah, made Yahuwah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So now keep in mind that the same thing that the man was made from, the Adamah, those two trees was made from the same thing. Alright? So again, I'm homing in on this because this garden and everything that was in this garden is made to show us something about us so we can gain this wisdom, this understanding about what the Father is really trying to convey to us. Because remember, he gave the man a responsibility, which was what? Y'all gonna have dominion over all of it. Right? But in order for you to have dominion, you gotta have some understanding, you gotta have some wisdom to be able to have dominion over the earth. Right? So now, we understand that the word for man is Adam, if you will, right? Adam. Like, in this case here, like, it's not Ish, it's Adam, right? So like, this is a generic term for human. Alright, so he formed a man or he formed a human. Alright, Ha-Adam, the man. And he made him from the dust of the ground. And that word for dust of the ground is Adamah. Alright, so it's a play on words. All right, it's a Hebrew play on words. We know names have meaning. Names come from a word that has meaning, and usually that word that is at the root of it explains what the name is or the character of whose name, right? So Nabal, his name was Nabal because, like she said, his name is as he is, right? And you know he's a fool. You know Father is with him, right? So names have meaning in Hebrew. All right. He formed a man from his quote unquote dust. Now, this dust of the earth, if you look this up, this is talking about like a red clay, right? So now it's starting to make sense to Jeremiah and things like that, where he's like, I'm the potter, you're the clay, right? I formed you, I molded you. Okay. This is the imagery that's being presented here. All right. Now, keep in mind, he's naming the man, and maybe he could have just spoke. Why didn't he just speak the man into existence? Right? Why didn't he form the man in another way? And we're gonna get down to it a little bit later, because why didn't he create the woman in the same way that he formed and molded the man out of earth? Like, he's doing everything for a reason, because it's something about the process, and if you examine the process, it's supposed to explain and give you wisdom about his purpose. Right? So, something about this earth, is something about the ground, this red clay. If you understand how it operates, it's supposed to help you understand how you're supposed to operate, right? So now, I'm gonna just throw this out here. Throw the shit out there. Matthew 13. We've been over this so many times, right? It talks about different types of ground, right? Well, what does the ground receive? It receives the seed, water, light. So again, remember I told you, you'll see how all of these things in creation was really set up to show us something about how we are supposed to operate and how we can achieve this quote-unquote image and likeness of Elohim. He created the man specifically. He modeled us using this Adamah, this clay, okay? And this clay is supposed to be able to receive a seed. That seed is supposed to reproduce like kind. The seed is supposed to be in itself, and then it's supposed to be fruitful, multiply, and more of that seed that was initially planted is supposed to spread and then do what? Bear fruit. Right? So we know the seed is the word, like Michelle said, the seed is his word. Right? And if you got good soil, if you're good soil, or like it says in another place, break up your fallow ground. Right? You don't want to have a stony heart. Right? If that soil is good, then the seed can then produce and reproduce more after its like kind. Right? Then we get to Shaq saying, what? Well, if it's a righteous seed, then I never seen a wicked tree produce good fruit, or vice versa. Right? So if the seed of his word is planted in you, it's supposed to bring forth a certain kind of fruit. Fruit of his ruach. So all of this is all set up, and the man, Adam, is supposed to have been able to understand all of this just from being in the midst of this. Right? Alright, all praises. So, he breathed the breath of life into the man, and the man became a living soul, right? Living being. But then also we see there's a tree of life, and then there's a tree with some knowledge of good and evil. Alright? So how does this work? Why would a tree like this be allowed in the garden if the man is not able to discern the difference yet? So the answer lies in how he created the man, right? Because who's heard some people say like, well, why would he even put that in the garden in the first place? He didn't even have to be there. But again, remember, he created them with an intellect, an appetite, a will of their own, a desire. He wants to see, okay, so I'm going to set you up here, and I want to see what are you going to do with me. Are you going to be inclined towards wisdom and gaining understanding, or are you going to go awry and do your own thing, right? So it's a test. He wants to see. This is the reason why he gave him the command, but he also gave them everything and more of what they would have needed to be able to uphold the command, if that was their appetite, right? So, Proverbs 20:11. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, who has made even both of them. So even a child, like, have you ever see? I'm not gonna open up that can of worms. Never mind. Children, they might not have wisdom yet, but they do have the capacity and ability to still obey and be obedient, right? So, okay. But there's a difference between having the ability to obey and actually having an understanding for the command, right? Big difference between the two. There's so many things that it took wisdom and me living a little bit in the obedience. Sometimes it's disobedience, right? For me to come back and gain wisdom on the situation of why I should have or shouldn't have obeyed the command, right? Or obeyed my will, or whatever it was, right? Like, there's so many things that I can think on when I was a kid that my parents would warn me and tell me, hey, don't do boom, 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 boom. Me? How hard can it be? Right? Like, yeah, that's how it was for you. And I turn around and do the exact same thing. And now I come back years later, I understand why you was right. I understand why you said that. I get it now. Yeah, that's all I was trying to tell you. And I've been there before, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was just getting ready to say, because you in the image and likeness of your parents.
All praises. All praises. That's the
Because you're in the image and likeness of your parents.
all praises. So later on, y'all just hold that thought. We're not gonna get there today. But like I said, there's a reason why we have to be born again. Right? Because like we always, sometimes we look at it like, are we in the image and likeness of Elohim? We're gonna see. Once we get to chapter 5, we're gonna see that there's something about that got lost and it has to be reattained. Like we lost a bit of that, and now we gotta be born again to get that back. Alright? All praises. So Luke 18 and 15. And they brought unto him also infants, that he would touch them. But when his Talmudim or his disciples saw it, they rebuked them. But Yahushua called them unto him and said, Suffer little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of Yahuwah. Truly I say unto you, whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of Yahuwah as a little child shall in no wise enter therein. Right, so they were in a childlike state, if you will, as far as their experience. Wisdom, but they had an intellect, a desire, they had all of the ability to still obey. But it's all based on their choice, just like it is for a child. Like, you can't make your children listen. You give them instructions and then you chastise them when they don't. And you try to explain it to them as best as you can so that they gain the wisdom along the way. You hold them accountable, but you can't make them do anything. If that was the case, none of us would. We all been good, right?
Just as any good father or any good parent will do, you're going to give the warning out. Just let you know, these are the rules of the house. Don't do this, don't do that. So Abihu, she's just being a total father. You can eat from this tree, knowledge of the life, but not of knowledge of good and evil. Like, I don't have to always, like you were saying, with the childlike mind, there are some things with our Elohim that we don't always thoroughly explain because they're just not at that age to be able to really comprehend what you need to know from that. Just listen to the instruction. Now, like we always tell our children, as y'all get older, you guys will understand why we're saying this. But listen to this instruction, it's gonna save your life. Like sometimes it's not always good to be able to go like in depth in it, it just depends. But especially like the early stages, so it's just as Abihu was being told father, like just I'm giving y'all instructions, listen to this. And if they would have done that, if you would have done that, you would have been in better standing.
All praises. It's been a conversation in our house, guys.
Yes, what is the true knowledge of good and evil?
So we gonna explore it a little bit. It's just what it sounds like. Knowledge of good and evil. Right? So the issue comes in there with this being a mixed tree or a mixed seed, if you will, right? We talked about how Mashiach said that the seed is his word, right? So that's the seed that represents life. We know if we obey his commandments, it brings us life. But this particular tree in the garden is representative of a knowledge of both good and evil. And that's what makes it a bad tree, is that it has both. And as we go over it, you'll see, because that's why we walk through wisdom, you have to have the ability to be able to discern between good and evil. And choose the good, they didn't have that ability yet.
What, I guess, on that answer, also I'm going to say, is it a myth that it's like an apple?
Yeah, it's definitely not. It never says that it's an apple. What I believe is, that it is a dual. It operates in a dual nature. So I think it's a physical tree. But I also think along with that is also this quote unquote knowledge of good and evil. So we'll start getting into it, not necessarily today, but we'll start dealing with the quote unquote serpent in the garden and how that is also indicative or representative of another outside voice, if you will, right? Another voice or someone that provided an alternative wisdom. So we'll get into that, not necessarily today, but yeah, definitely it's not an apple.
Okay.
All praises. All praises. That's what I was saying. It's been a conversation in our house. Why we give instructions, right? Like, I've been having to explain to my daughter, like, follow the rules because we give you rules for a reason. And even though you don't understand the rules, as long as you follow the rules gonna keep you safe.
Right.
The minute that you break the rules, now you opening up yourself to get hurt. I asked her, I said, why do we give you rules? I told you why I give you rules. Why did I give you rules? To keep us safe so we don't hurt ourselves. Okay? So then you have to understand it's things about the rules that I understand that you don't know yet. That's why I give you rules. So you might not see it as a danger, but it is a danger. And I know it's a danger. I said, you know I know more than you. You know me and mine know more than you, right? You know this child looked at me and said, okay, a little bit. I said, sorry to let you know. You know a lot of it. A lot of it. A lot of it. So, all praises. But it goes to show you that they was in the same state, right? That same childlike state in the garden. Like, they have their own ability to think for themselves.
Right.
Just like our children do. Think for yourself. But you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But I know what you don't know.
Right.
So, I'm giving you these rules, these commandments, if you will, to keep you safe and protect you. Why? Because I love you. Now notice, it's a reciprocated thing. I'm going to give you the commandment because I love you, and you're going to keep the commandment because what?
Love me.
Love me, right? All praises.
I'm thinking too, could it be nothing that is not like Abihu can be in his presence? So it's like giving you the instruction, of course, to be able to see like what are you gonna do. It's almost like purging the evil from its midst. Like if you're not like him, what does he do? Like he gives order, he gives instructions for all of us. But once you have disobeyed that, there's disciplinary actions. You know, you get consequences for your actions. There's destruction, and oftentimes you cannot be in my presence at all, not even in my sight, like because you're not clean. You're not righteous before me. So I always think about it too, like how the instructions so that they can be able to know, okay, as long as I stick to what you're telling me, I can be in your midst. I can dwell with you. But the very minute that I don't, you gotta get out of here.
1-800 Adopt Child. It's called Living Stop.
Yeah, like he's a consuming fire. Like
Go.
you can't just
Tell
play around with that, you know. So he has to make it known, make it clear, because so that they won't be confused. Like, oh, okay, no, he's a consuming fire. Like he's set apart and he's righteous. So we gotta lay the law down. So that way, you know, if you do, you gotta get out of here. You can't be in my midst.
But yeah, all praises. Like all jokes aside, there is an accountability that he was holding them to. Right? And I already gave you everything. And I've known, just like we saw with the creation of the earth, right? Everything was well thought out. He thought out every single aspect and element of creation for it to all work together. So he created everything that the man would ever could possibly need to be what he needed him to be. Right? Like he lacked nothing. Nothing. So there's no excuse I can hold you accountable. Right? I'm not asking you to do anything that you can't. I just want you to do what you can. Do the best that you can. That's it. More on this wisdom. 1 Kings 3 and 3. And Solomon loved Yahuwah, because we know he was the most wisest of all. Right? But we're going to see really what was his wisdom. What was the essence of Solomon's wisdom? Right? Solomon loved Yahuwah, walking in the laws of his father David, except that he slaughtered and burned incense in the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to slaughter there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 incentive offerings on that slaughter place. And at Gibeon, Yahuwah appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and Elohim said, "What should I give you?" And Solomon said, "You have shown great love and commitment to your servant David, my father, as he walked before you in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with you. And you have guarded for him this great love and commitment, and did give him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Yahuwah my Elohim, you have set up your servant to reign instead of my father David, but I am a little child." So again, we've been talking about this mentality of a child, right? I did not know how to go out or to come in. The movie by Richard Pryor was in Which Way Is Up.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that, like, man, which way is up? I can't tell his attendance. Like, I can't tell if I'm coming or going. It says, "And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. Shall you give them to your servant? Shall you then give to your servant an understanding heart to rule your people?" So this was the wisdom. Have an understanding heart. To do what? To discern between good and evil. Right? So this is the wisdom that they need. Because there's this tree in the midst of the garden that has both good and evil. You partake in both something that's both good and bad, and you don't get a crapshoot. Good. When you look at it this way, but then when you look at it this way, it's evil. Right? A whole mixed bag. Like, who knows how it's going to come out? He says, "Shall you then give to your servant and understand the hearts to rule your people, to discern between good and evil? For who is able to rule this great people of rulers?" Now, remember, this was something that he was asking for specifically to do what? Rule the people to have dominion. Alright, so they needed this wisdom and this ability to discern between good and evil in order for them to have dominion. So it says, the word was good in the eyes of Yahuwah that Solomon had asked this. So Elohim said to him, because you have asked this, and have not asked long life for yourself, nor have asked riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand right ruling. See, I shall do according to your words. See, I shall give you a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like you, before you, and none like you shall arise after you. And I shall give you what you have not asked, both riches and esteem, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all your days. And if you walk in my ways, to guard my laws and my commands, as your father David walked, then I shall prolong your days. Alright, so you get this understanding between good and evil. You walk in my righteousness, then I give you everything else. Right? Seek ye first my kingdom. Right? Seek ye first the kingdom and all of this riches. The rest will be given unto you. Alright, so the function of the man, Genesis 2 and 15. So Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and to guard it. Alright, so now this man is a living being, a living soul. He has his own will, his own desire, his own intellect, his own all of these things, and then he's giving him some quote unquote responsibilities in this place that was specifically designed for him. Right? So now just keep this in mind, because we heard the whole story of creation, but then it said, and he planted a garden, he sort of eat it, and then he placed the man in it. Right? So we're gonna find out a little bit later that there's a quote unquote field that is outside of his garden. Right? But he placed the man within the garden because it's something he wanted the man to learn within his garden. So notice here that we see that the man is what we see what the man is being tasked to do. I want us to take a look at this a little bit deeper, and hopefully it will shed some light on this passage. So Adam is given the task of caring for this garden that Yahuwah has planted. Right? So he got to keep up with, maintain all order. Right? So first we want to look at this word for dressing. Right? This is the same word for working. Right? To working. He was working the land. Right? H5647. Abide. Alright, so a primitive root to work in any sense by implication to serve, to till. Positively to enslave, that's a grammar positively. To be or keep in bondage again, depending on how you use it, that's grammar context. To compel, to dress, to be a husbandman, right? And also it can be to be a worshiper, right? So just keep those things in mind. And that's what he put him in this garden to do. He's working in this garden, right? And something about working in this garden is making him a servant to Elohim, right? So just keep that in mind, all right? As a side note, I want us to look at this word for dress pictographically to get a better idea of how a servant operates. So we know that in the pictographic, each one of those letters have meaning. You can put those words, those meanings of those letters together, and you'll get a definition of what it's telling you about what the purpose of this road is. Right? So it's spelled ayin, bet, and dalet. All right, Hebrew goes from the right to the left. All right, so the ayin is what it sounds like. Where we get the word eye from, it's a picture of eye. All right, so the ayin is a picture of the eye. The bet is a picture of a 10th floor plan, right? It's house. I don't know if y'all paying attention to the opening thing, we House of Refuge, but in Hebrew we bet big lot. Right? So, like, bet is same as the letter B, but it's the represents a house. Right? And then you got the last letter, the dollar, is a picture of a door. Right? It's like a curtain hanging from a doorpost on the tent. Right? So when you put it all together, you get someone who is eyeing the door to the house. This is what a servant does. The servant eyes the door of the house. He watches the door of the house. Right? So any good servant keeps his eyes on the door of his master. Make sure that ain't none that's supposed to not come in here, don't come in here. that's within here, we make sure everything is operating and running smooth, right? That's what a good servant does, right? Hebrews 3:1, right? A faithful servant, keep your eyes on the door of the house. It says, wherefore, holy brethren, take partakers of the heavenly calling. Consider the apostle. This was, I think this was the KJV translation. And high priest of our profession, Mashiach Yahushua, who was faithful to him that appointed him. And also, Moses was faithful in all his house. Right? So, Moses was considered a faithful servant, a good and faithful servant. And why? Because he washed his master's house. Right? For this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he who has built the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by some man, but he that built all these is Yahuwah. And Moses truly was faithful in all his house, as a what? As a servant. For a testimony of those things which were to be spoken after, but Mashiach as a son over his own house. Whose house are we, if we hold fast the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end? Alright, so a servant keeps his eyes on the door of the house. So he's supposed to be a servant in his garden. What y'all think he's supposed to be doing? He should be keeping his eye on everything. Guard this thing, protect this thing, right? Make sure that nothing come in here that ain't supposed to be in here. Make sure that nothing is working improperly in here. Make sure everything is staying and maintaining the order that the Father created in here, right?
Yeah.
It's a garden. He got to guard this garden, right? It's the word for guard, shamar, H8104. Now, y'all know this is the same word that's used for us when it's telling us to guard the commandments, right? Same word. So the same thing that he was supposed to be doing in the garden is the same thing we're supposed to be doing with the word of the Father within us. So a primitive root properly to hedge about as with thorns, that is to guard. In Job, he was talking about a hedge of protection, wasn't he? When you disobey the Most High, are you still under that hedge of protection? Or was the hedge of protection literally through the command, right? Through the obedience of the command, right? Everything within here, you straight. But you step out of line, you step out of bounds, I can't protect you from that, right? Whatever happens is what happens. We say what? Rules, you cross the street. If you don't cross the street, and if you do have to cross the street, look both ways. You break those rules, and whatever might happen, it might happen. But it only happened because you broke the rules. If you would have followed the rules, never would have been a danger. Right? As long as you look both ways, before you cross, you good. But the minute that you cross without looking both ways, you might get ran over. You might not, I don't know. It just depends. But out there, you know, it's whatever's going to happen outside of keeping that rule, that commandment, right? So, it says to beware to be circumspect, right? What does it mean to be circumspect? It's like you're reflecting within, right? And I'm looking back and I'm thinking back on things. Thinking, this is to think circumspect, right? So as he's guarding his garden, it's something about him doing this that he should be looking at himself and thinking, okay, so why am I doing this? And what can happen if I don't do this? Right? He's again creating him with an intellect, and he's wanting him to put this intellect to use. Right? Alright, so to observe, to preserve, to regard, to preserve, to save self, right, to be a watchman, we get all this, right? Do you think that Adam could have been learning how to guard himself regarding the garden? Again, the garden has these trees, and these trees was made out of the Adamah, the same way that he was made out of the Adamah, right? He's showing him how to, if As long as you caring for this garden and you take care of the things within this, I'm showing you something about how you can take care of your people. Right? What happens when we have cares of the world? Mashiach said that the cares of this world are like what? Thorns and thistles. And the seed is his word. But if you let the seed of his word grow side by side with the cares of this world, what happens? It gets choked out. Can I or can I not plant a seed in the ground and watch that happen?
Yeah.
If I take a seed, a literal seed, and I plant that in the ground, I can see that happen. Let me plant it in the midst of a shrub or a bush. Then another thing we know about weeds is you don't have to plant them. They just show up.
They found a way.
And if you let the good seed grow next to the weed, what happens? The weed be healthy and then the plant suffers. Every single time. I've never seen it work any other way.
So, in this garden, we have the two trees. Is it safe to say it's not just them plucking a pomegranate or a fig off the tree and consuming as far as eating, but taking in and consuming good information and bad information?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They didn't get the bad information until they got this quote unquote counsel from the serpent, this knowledge of good and evil. They got the mix. But up until that point, no, everything in creation was what? It was good. Very good. Right? So as long as you stay within the guidelines that I set for you, you obey these commandments, the only result you're going to get out of it is good and very good. Right? That's it. It was only a win for them until they disobeyed and they stepped outside of that. And they get this mixed up bag of both good and evil. And now we starting to get some evil results. And then we haven't even got to that part yet. He's created us the ground, and you know, like even when Mashiach healed the blind man's eyes, right? What did the blind man say? He said, the first time he did, he said, what do you see? He said, I see men as trees. And then he did it, went back, did it again, and then the man could see. There's a parallel that we are to see that, no, he patterned us to be just like, if we observe them, we'll gain knowledge and understanding of how we are. We have what? Quote unquote seed.
Roots.
All praises.
Yeah, it's not a big question. So what color would that thing have been?
So, excellent question. Remember I said that he made him from the earth, right? It's a reddish clay, but when I say red, I'm not talking about like blood. I'm talking about like ruddy. There we go, like a red earth. Like, have you ever been to like if you go down south to like Tennessee, Georgia, you know how it's like a dirty, like it's got like a reddish tint to it. There we go. So yeah. Hey, my brother, he look like you were out. All praises.
Why he ain't dark skinned like me?
I ain't saying that. I'm not saying that. We go to the earth, brother. Let's get it straight. The earth comes in all shades. Right? All praises. All praises. All right, so. Look, hey, don't start no more beating. I am not trying to start no. All praises. So, is it possible that the lessons he was learning in the garden were showing him how to take heed of himself? Keep in mind how many parables are agricultural in the scriptures with the intent to teach us something about ourselves, right? So when we interact with this environment, it's lessons for us to learn, and it's not just for us to learn about the land, it's for us to learn about ourselves. Guess what? If you keep working the land, what happens? Eventually the land is going to get depleted. You have to give the land rest. He leads the Shabbat. Right? You see how all of these things were set up. If we were in tune with the environment that we was placed in, we would start to gain understanding of how we are and what we need. Right? Okay, no, these plants need water. If you don't water them, they're going to die. Right? Then we realize that water symbolizes something in the word as well spiritual. Right?
Right.
You don't get light, it's going to die. Light represents something spiritual. Right? So you see how all of these things are working to come in contact with this seed that the Father is trying to plant in us so that we can do what? Be fruitful, multiply. Right? Be fruitful. What is that fruit? Again, fruit is what? And then multiply that some 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. All praises. Just one of those days.
Come on, Monica.
All praises. So we know that Eden means delight or pleasure, right? It maybe it's a paradise, like a paradise, right? A delight or pleasure, right? Is there anything that the Father wants us to delight in? In other words, what should be our delight or pleasure? Right. So again, I'm trying to show us that there is a parallel between Him directly being in the garden, physically, and what we could have gained, what we can gain spiritually. Right? Proverbs 40:8, I delight to do thy will, O my Elohim. Yes, that thy law is within my heart. Something about being a servant, put you in this paradise. I want you to delight in it. I want this to be a delight. And now we start to see you guard and you keep the word. And when you do that, then it's supposed to be a delight or a quote-unquote Eden within you. Right? Psalm 119:16, I will delight myself in thy statutes. I will not forget thy word. Psalm 119:24, thy testimonies are my delight and my counselors. 119:47, and I will delight myself in thy commandments, which I have loved. 119:92, unless thy law had been my delights, I should have perished in mine affliction. Right? So we're going to see why all of this is important, because it's something about this that the first man and woman did not understand. They didn't make his word their delight, his command their delight. And because they didn't make that their delight, what happened? They caught a hell, right? That's right. We're gonna get to it, y'all. Yes, sir.
Got another question?
This might seem a little silly, but how would you make that your life?
How would you make the commands your delight?
Yeah, like, I know I was gonna say this a little silly, but doesn't that go more than that when you say with some people we're not making it on the light? You said without the two first people who couldn't do that, that's what it was. That they failed. So you see, I want to plant my seed there. The light, but would it be like sing a song? What is things you think that help make it the light?
All praise is absolutely like, it's like we was talking about earlier in Philippians 4, right? Like, the thing about it is, his word, have you ever, when you do something according to his word, it makes you feel good, right? Like, when you do the right thing, helping somebody, it makes you feel good, right? You end up being happy that you did it. Like, you feed somebody, you give somebody something, you help somebody, you hold the door open for somebody elderly, whatever it is. When you operate in the character of the Most High and you're obedient to His will and His word, His commandments, His laws, His statutes, it only makes you feel good, right? So that's how you make His word your delight. You look for those opportunities to do good, because you know in the end it's gonna help you more than it probably help the person.
Facts.
You know, so like then when you start to gain understanding and the wisdom like we was talking about, you understand like, oh man, what would have happened if I didn't do that? Right? Like if I didn't do the right thing,
Right.
what would have happened? If I,
But what do you know because you reap what you sow?
you said when you know because you reap what you sow?
Yeah.
Definitely. Sometimes I've had to learn the hard way. Yeah, sometimes I sow a bad seed, I have to reap a bad tree with bad fruit. Right? But every time that I reap a good seed, I reap a good tree with a good fruit. So that encourages me and that makes me want to do that more instead of planting a bad seed and getting bad results. Right?
So
Like,
when you say it's getting off on the right foot, is it the sun coming at the right time? Is it different for everybody? Is that grace or
Yeah, it's like grace, so like just making take the Lord's commandments to life, like you know what I'm saying, like is that a part of the planet, being on this planet and no one's created, but it's like for some people go probably follow a whole different path, you know what I'm saying? That I can see what you're saying, I can see the breaking down. People scared to go outside, which is what you're saying. But if you just want to make it your delight, there's so many things you can do. It's kind of what I'm trying to say.
yeah, absolutely. Like there's so many things that you can do to make the commands your delight. And it's not gonna be the same thing every day. You know what I mean? Like one day it might be doing this good thing according to his will. And another day it might be this, right? Like you might not just get up and do the same thing every day, but you constantly looking for pleasing the Most High. And when you do that, then that's when it comes with the life. Go ahead, man.
It's part of like pleasing the Most High. Obviously, love the Most High. You keeping His commandments. And if you love your neighbor, love your brother, you're supposed to. That'll be a delight. Also, because what you're doing is covering. Love covers a multitude of sin. So that's a delight in itself, right there.
All praises. I'm gonna let you got all the screens we're gonna get today. Did you have something?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just, know we was talking about Eden and being paradise, and how, I was just thinking how, when you're in paradise, you go on vacation, you let your guard down. In Eden, in paradise. And I was just thinking to myself, I said, no, I thank y'all for the tribulations that we go through, because it doesn't allow us to put our guard down. Where we are right now, this is not paradise. So it's like, it keeps us on guard, understanding even when we talk about the tree, good and evil, and how we have this internet, this tree that has many branches, and it's like just even having the wisdom to know what to pick off this internet, off of social media, because it's so much. There's good, and there's evil, and you have the things that's it's split. So now I was just thinking to myself, I thank y'all for not allowing me to put my guard down, knowing that I'm not in paradise, but looking at how Adam and Eve messed that up because they let another voice come in and their guard was down.
All praises. That's Ecclesiastes in a nutshell, right? Like, hey, it's both set before you. Man, like, let's go to that.
I want to read Proverbs 10:12 about sin covering. Love covering. It says, hatred stirs up strife, but love covereth all sin. Because I hear people saying, multitude, but when he got me to all sin, I said, connect the dots. All sins, it covers.
Yeah, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All praises.
But if you live, how could you let your guard down if there's no voices there? Because is that way just not want to tell the truth that they think you know?
Letting your guard down is where you're not walking or you're not delighting yourself and you get complacent. Guard down, now it gives the adversary a chance to come in and just put something, just a thought. And if your mind is not guarded, you're taking that thought, and it's unrighteous, and now you have, man, how do I fall for
I
that?
guess then my question is, what would God do if you have one thought that may not even come from you, but it came, it plants rooted, and now,
What about all this other thoughts that were you suffer, that were God might have said don't do it,
It's a scripture in James that talks about if you're guilty of one, you're guilty of them all. Because James 2nd chapter.
just one wrong, one.
It can lead you up, keep you out the heat. That's why we have to stay guarded. That's why we have to continue to. That's why we keep the commandments. It's a set of rules. If I have young boys in my house, and I have a set of rules, like this is 8 rules I have in my house, and they might break the one that's maybe like the least detrimental to the house. Hey.
I was gonna also say, like, it's a part of it is, like he said, is going glory into the perfect day. So, like, part of it is, it says in another place, like, being ready to like, you gotta cast down certain thoughts. You know what I mean?
Imaginations.
Yeah, certain imaginations, certain things that are not like the Most High. Like, I'm not gonna say that they're gonna pop up and they're not gonna come and try to attack you. That's what I was talking about, is staying on your guard, right? If you stand on your guard, when they come, you prepare with the word to be able to cast those things down.
So you saying when that happens, you have to do what? You have to have the ability to stand back firm in the faith with the shield. Like,
Well, that's to really want that shield. But that's lost my thought. Be angry is sin not. You can be angry and the adversary is like, man, I got Ron because Ron's in his emotions now. Now if I can get him to go a little farther in his anger, now
I've done that one time.
Yeah.
And I've tried so hard not to. It's just like, I guess I'm not the only one, you know what I mean? But what are we gonna do? It's like, this is today that
this is not to, we're learning. So we're not saying, hey, you did a bad thought last week, so you condemn. No, we have breath in our life, in our lungs today, so that we can, Father, forgive me. You spoke about grace earlier, that when we do mess up, there's a time where, there's some sins that, hey, die. But we have our advocate, Yahusha, and yeah.
So I get I'm afraid to say this, but what is that?
What is death?
So, that's what I was gonna say. Like, there's a physical death, which is, I mean, we know what physical death is. Something that's just not alive anymore. And there's also such thing as a spiritual death, where you might not be spiritually alive, right? So to not be spiritually alive, I would say is, walking, being separated from the Most High. You were just walking in sin, and that's what they call a reprobate. You don't even care anymore because your heart is seared with a hot iron, spiritually dead.
And at that point is when you become wicked.
Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Sexual points too, like repent, like ask for forgiveness, and then once you have the knowledge of that wrongdoing or that wrong thought, repent, ask for forgiveness, go to sleep, wake up in the morning with new mercies and new compassion from the Father. And then after that, we just once we have the knowledge of it, we say, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not even going to go that route because I know now that it's not right. And after that, you start over the next day with like I said, new mercies, and you do better.
Is there any scripture or ways that you repent? Is there any way you're supposed to repent? Is it like an altar thing, a sacrifice?
So in essence, the word repent literally means to turn away from doing what you do. Right? So that's really what repentance is. True repentance is whatever the thing was that you did that you weren't supposed to do, you turned away from doing that. You stopped doing it. Right? So it's the reason why when the Messiah told a lot of people, what did he say? He said that go and sin no more. Right? Like they would get forgiveness, but then he also told them on top of that, go and sin no more, because that's the true repentance. Right? So repentance is to turn away from doing the things you're not supposed to do. And I'm not saying that it's going to be an instant thing, because there are some cases where some things are more deeply rooted, but you have to, the first step of it for you, if you want to do that sort of thing, is to say, okay, I need to go and seek, as it says in Hebrews, I need to be transparent, I need to lay this before the Father so that I can receive the help. Right? Like, let me acknowledge it first. This is wrong. I don't want it. And now let me get with the Father to see, strengthen me so that now my will is reflecting your will. That's what I would say.
It's something to just repent and not repeat.
There we go. All praises. All praises. So the function of the man, Garden Eden. Right? So again, we talking about Garden Eden within you. Right? Deuteronomy 6 and 2. He says that thou might fear Yahuwah thy Elohim, to keep or shamar all his commandments, which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's sons all the days of thy life, and that thy days might be prolonged. Leviticus 25 and 18. Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments, and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety. Now, again, you see how this is reflective of the same thing with the garden, right? If they would have done those statutes and done those commandments, they would have dwelled in that land, in the garden, in safety. The minute that they turned away from that, just like Israel got kicked out of the land, They got kicked out of the garden, right?
Consequence.
Consequences. Leviticus 18:4. You shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein, and I am Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahuwah. Now he gave them this breath of life. He set this tree of life there, and he's also saying, hey, if you keep these statutes and these judgments, you're going to have life, right? You see how it's working. Exodus 19:5. Now therefore, if you obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And Daniel 9:4. And I prayed unto you, my Elohim, and made my confession, and said, O Adonai, the great and dreadful El, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him. So you see how he's keeping his end of the deal, but it's to those who what? Are keeping their end of the deal, right? We love him and keep his commandments, and he keeps his commandment to us that love him, right? So it all works full circle. And to them that keep his commandments, all right? So could it be that Adam was supposed to learn of Elohim through his obedience in the Garden of Eden, right? Something about him being in this garden, he's supposed to be gaining understanding for it, the Father's character, the Father's way of doing things, right? Again, we're talking about spiritual principle. A mixed seed, if you will, something that's mixed. We know that the Father don't really like mixing things that are mixed up, good and evil at the same time, right? That's a principle that we can now, if we apply that principle in life, I've understood something about the Father's character, right? He either wants it hot or cold. If I'm swinging between two opinions on this, I need to decide, right? You go to Isaiah.
Every time you say you should acknowledge your neighbor, I think I've seen the seraphim, and I didn't know about that, but I know that it's once they got exiled, he made cherubim, or the angels basically, to guard the tree of life.
All praises. Yeah, absolutely. We won't get there. We probably won't get there to that part today. It's a little bit later in chapter 3. We still in chapter 2. But yeah, all praises.
Yeah, that's good because I was back here thinking about when we had the Paleo Hebrew letters up there and becoming the keeper of the door. And here he is keeping them from coming in. I also thinking about them getting kicked out of the garden. It's like they got kicked out of the land and whatnot. But then you also see Satan, he gets kicked out of the heavens. The same thing, and just like Cain became a vagabond, like here he was to and fro through the earth the same way. Just like so.
All
Same thing.
praises. All praises. Again, like we talk, we're gonna start to notice these cycles, these patterns. What we're learning is we're learning truly what the Most High's ways are, right? Like we're learning His ways. So now, even in the things that have not yet happened, like if you understand how the principles that the Most High operates off of, His heart, His character on the matter, right? His heart and His character is no unclean thing is about to be disrespecting me in my face. And if it's in my face, it's going to either get banished or it's going to get snuffed out. Right? Right. So now we can apply that and just gain that little bit of understanding of how he moved in the garden, how he moved with Cain, how he moved with Hashatan. And now we can apply that to the quote unquote the future kingdom. Right? What do we think is going to be there? If you don't guard and keep these commandments, what do you think is going to happen? Are you going to be let in? Or are you going to be outside?
Outside,
right? So you see how now we're starting to understand his character and his the way that the Father views things, the way that the Father moves in things. That's what I'm saying. Like, man, if we get a grasp on Genesis, literally everything else just falls in line because you learn his character. Abraham, we're going to get to that point at some point where it's like, we not like you to judge the just and the unjust alike, right? We're learning his character, right? And he's like, yeah, you're right. So I'm going to tell you what, if you can find, now he's learning about his mercy, right? Like, you're starting to learn his character on a thing. So, yeah, absolutely. All praises. So, Genesis 2:16. Well, let me go back. Let's see if Yahuwah Elohim gave Adam or the man any commandments or judgments in the garden. We've been talking about garden and keeping these commandments. Well, did he give this man any commandments in the garden? Let's see. Genesis 2:16. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man. He did what?
Commanded.
He commanded. This is a commandment specifically given to this man, right? Saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat of thereof, you shall surely die. Right? So, here's the question. Why did Yahuwah give Adam this commandment? Was it to hurt him or was it to help him?
Keep being hurt.
Keep him from being hurt. Why does he give us his commandments? Same reason, to keep us from getting hurt. How many times have we seen where people, they speak ill of the commandments, not understanding that, no, this is his expression of love. He's giving this to you as a father to keep you from getting hurt.
Right.
Is it to help us or to hurt us? Did he want Adam to live or die? And the commandments always point to what? Life. Violation of the commandment always turns into, it leads to what? Death.
So he had an opportunity to eat from the tree of life and death.
Absolutely.
So he gave you in Deuteronomy, like in the wilderness, he's telling me, I gave you this day good life and death and bad life. Choose life. And they had an opportunity to choose life. So they got kicked out before they had a chance to go and touch that one too.
Absolutely. All praises. We see how we started. We already can connect dots. We already understand how the Father works, how he moves. Right? All praises. So, does the Father want us to have life or death? Forget about what you want. Does he want you to have life or death? Right? He said what? Therefore choose life. I'm setting this before you. You got the free will. You have this intellect. I caused you to be a living being. Right? So it's your free will. You can do whatever you want with the free will. I desire that you choose life. I'm not going to make you. Right? But if you love him, you will keep his commandments. And if we understand that he gave us the commandments because he loves us, then it should be easy to keep the commandments because we love him. Right? But if you don't understand that the command was given because he loves you, it might make it a little bit easier for you to set it to the side by the wayside. Right? If you don't have that understanding, like he said, the seed is the word. And when the enemy sees that one does not have understanding, that which was planted is uprooted. Right? So we see how, again, we start all the way back from the beginning, but we can see how this all plays out from the top to the bottom. From Genesis, Bereshiyt, all the way to Revelation. Right? And it's the same blueprint, the same formula in Revelation as it is in the beginning. Same thing, it's unchanging.
I read somewhere that the understanding comes about through the obedience. You can't say that you understand it just from listening or hearing. You have to walk it out, and that's when it's revealed more fully.
All praises. And Sirach, he alludes to that. The book of Sirach, he says that there is a understanding that comes first by obeying the command, then you gain the understanding. So, again, you might not understand the danger of if you step out there in that street and a car is coming by, that it's gonna splatter you like a bug. But as long as you obey it, you're safe. And then the more that you do it, the more you see more cars go by. You just might even get lucky enough to see a squirrel jump out there in the road without looking and get ran over. Then you start to gain wisdom and understanding, and when you start to understand the command all the more. Oh man, if I jump out there, that's what would have happened. Whoa.
If I disobey my parents and you see one of your friends taken outside and stoned, man, you remember if I don't do this, this is going to take place to me. So now you're getting the wisdom and the knowledge. Okay, obey my parents, but once you see something in the action, now you're fearing, but out of for life. That makes sense.
All praises.
Then you have to look at how does our people love us? Because when you look at that Western, that worldly mindset, that love is given into your emotion, and oh, is that what you want? Okay, I'll give it to you because I love you. But what you want is not always what you need.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, how does our people love us? Talks about he corrects the ones that he loves, chastise, and his desire is for all to make it, though many will perish. But he wants all of us to make it into the kingdom. So now we have to look at, okay, our people's character. How does he love? Like, how does he show his love to us? All of that is okay to me. It's instructions, it's commandments, because I want you to be able to my desire. I know my plan. Our people knows his plan already. So he wants to include us in it. He wants us to be able to be with him. Him be our Elohim, us be his people. That was the eternal, it was a forever covenant that was in his heart to give to all of us. So that love, you gotta be able to recognize and understand, look, okay, how does our people love us? Is it different from the world? Yes, it is different from the world. You have to put his mindset in ours.
All praises. Like, it's a big misconception today, right? Is we think that love is just give you what you want. We think love is just make you feel good. We confuse love with affection. And it's not the same thing. Right? In scripture, love is more often than any other expression of love is usually in correction, reproof.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, if I see you going the wrong direction, if I love you, I'm gonna stop you and I'm gonna say, hey, don't go in that direction. Right? That's how love is expressed. Now, affection, a little bit something different, right? But Western, we think love is just an emotional thing. You don't make me happy in this moment. You don't love me. It's like, no, that's not. It's the opposite. Actually, if I'm not making you happy in this moment, but it's helping you, it's for your well-being. That's showing that I love you. Right? Like if I just let you, if I just let you do something that's going to be harmful or self-destructive, and I don't say anything, he says this is called hating your brother.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely is a big thing.
Yeah, very clear on that when he said that,
Can't hear you.
oh, my bad.
Just bringing back to the scripture where he says that, chastisement may hurt for the moment. But in the long run, you look back and you see how it developed you into something else and how it took you away from something that could have destroyed you, but brought you back to life.
All praises.
Of course, I preference that.
All praises.
Sound good.
So like I said, you see this on both sides, right? When he was going in the land later on, what does it say? It says, and now Israel, what does Yahuwah thy Elohim require of you? But to fear Yahuwah thy Elohim, to walk in his ways, to love him, and to serve Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul. To keep the commandments of Yahuwah and his statutes, which I command thee this day for what? For your good. That's why he gave them to us. So anybody that says that the law is a curse, we can't. The word says otherwise.
Couple of dollars. He literally said it.
Revelation 22:12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give to every man according as his work shall be. So, we know faith without works is dead, and faith comes by hearing, and hearing of what?
The word of God.
The word of God. So if you are being obedient to the word, thus saith Yahuwah, all these laws, statutes, and commandments, that's what your works gonna be, right? But if you disobeying those things, that's what your works is gonna be, right? He's gonna give a reward for what? To every man according to his works, whether they was obedient or not. I am the Alpha and Omega, or the Aleph and Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do what? But blessed are they that do the commandments. I'm going to give you whichever you deserve according to what your works on. But the blessing comes with what? Keeping these commandments. Life and death, blessing and cursing.
That's right.
Same thing. And this is Revelation. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they might have what? Right. To the tree of life. This same tree that was in the beginning. So the same thing that got them cut off on the tree in the beginning is the same thing that's going to keep you cut off on the tree in the end. But the same thing that will give you access to the tree in the beginning was the same thing that's going to give us access to the tree in the end. Keep his commandments.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Me, I'll be having discussions or whatever. But one point I always bring up is I can't imagine the Most High hollowing the seventh day and making the Shabbat holy and didn't tell Adam.
Straight up. Straight up. And we're going to get to just a thought to throw out there is it possible? So we know he worked in these 6 days, created the earth, and then the seventh day he rested, right? Where was the Most High when the serpent was in the garden? They don't say, right? It just says that he came in the evening, in the cool of the day. Now he's re-entering in the garden, looking for the man. So one way of looking at it is it possible that this was, quote unquote, in that seventh day when he was resting, that these things took place? Just a thought. I can't, I'm not going to tell you that absolutely, this is what they worked the Shabbat, but just a thought, just something for you to think about.
Well, because around this time, we talk about tabernacles and keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. And so here we see the Most High tabernacle with his people. Now we're talking 8th day. Where things are spirit now, and have a complete rest. Yeah, because now I'm thinking, because I was thinking about the kingdom and the garden, like we already talked about being a parallel. So you even see it in that aspect, especially around this time, this feast season.
Absolutely, like literally remember what that tabernacle is about. So literally, for he's dwelling in the midst of people, and that's what he was looking for.
Just really, going back to focusing on the tree of life, it just makes me think about these scripts. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 18. She is a tree of life. She talked about wisdom. To those taking hold of her, and blessed are all who retain her. Proverbs 11, verse 30. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who is winning lives is wise. And then Proverbs 15:4, a healing tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it crushes the spirit. giving you ways to, well, you want to go back, like, you can go back, but here are some ways. Have wisdom, make sure you're righteous, make sure that your tongue is not killing people out here. You know, there's ways that you can, he's telling you, okay, there's ways you can get back to this, and here's how. So there's just so much wisdom in the scriptures, and we can to understand how to get back to the tree of life by following them, you know, going back to the word about how you do it. All of this for the purpose for us to, again, have that moment we can be where we're supposed to be to begin with. Like, not here.
All praises. Verse 16, for thou art dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth or maketh a lie. Like, I put something in the chat earlier today. We gotta be able to answer those questions. Within self. Because if we can't, we might find ourselves outside. Or, hey, or hot. So he also wanted Adam to keep the garden and guard his delight. So that we see where the Father wants us to keep or guard these delights, his word, his statutes, laws, commandments, testimonies, like Adam was supposed to keep the garden of Eden. It's impossible that these things hedge us like the garden did. You know, when we keep these commandments, we get hedged about. So could guarding these things be a way for us to get back to the garden?
Absolutely.
All praises.
Land flowing with milk and honey.
All praises. It was brought out, it's two cherubim that was blocking the access to it. The Ark of the Covenant has what on it?
Sure it is.
Same two.
Come on.
So just again, I'm not trying to get too ahead, but we're gonna see that all this stuff is patterns that he's showing us. Hey, this covenant, if we keep this covenant, and we was talking about months ago, the temple in you and how it is, like, we never got to the holy place. I didn't forget it. And it was my intention around this time of the year to circle back to it. It just didn't work that way.
May still happen.
Yeah, it's definitely still on the agenda.
But it's all flowing, it's all hand in hand, it's all flowing.
All praises. Like, but the essence of it is when you look at the Ark of the Covenant, it's designed in a certain way. It has this lid of atonement on top of it, or they call it a mercy seat on the top of it. And that's the thing that's in between the presence of the quote unquote the esteem of the Father that rested upon the ark. And you got this mercy seat or this lid of atonement. And then inside underneath that, you got the quote unquote covenant, right? You got Aaron's staff, his rod that budded, you got this golden jar of manna, and you got these commandments, right? So, like, I'm saying all that to say, and then on the top of that, you have these two cherubim, like they watching you keep guard, right? So just, see that this covenant is literally your path, your doorway back to this.
Yes.
So just all praises. So Psalm 119, 113, he says, I hate vain thoughts, but thy law do I love. Thou art my hiding place and my shield, I hope in thy word. Depart from me, evildoers, for I will keep the commandments of my Elohim. Uphold me according to thy word, that I may live. So again, something about this word is it brings life. And let me not be ashamed of my hope. Hold thou me up, and I shall be safe, and I will have respect unto thy statutes continually. Thou hast trodden down all them that err from thy statutes, for their deceit is what? Falsehood. And we know that somebody brought in some falsehood. Alright? Jeremiah 29:13, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith you would, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall you call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me when you shall search for me with all your heart. Again, this was something that was in the context of in the days of Jeremiah, to Jeremiah and the people. However, there's a principle here, right? Like there's a principle in the way the Father works. Like, hearken unto him, he'll hearken unto us. And he's shown that to us several times. The thoughts that he thinks towards us. He loves us. It's not his desire, like was brought out earlier, that any should perish. We gotta understand that, and it should, as long as we get that part of it, and keeping commandments should be easy at that point. As far as making a decision to do it, I'm not saying that because the flesh is always going to war against the ruach. I'm saying for you to accept, okay, this is what I should be doing. Like they war. Certainly in the church, they war with this concept because they don't understand the value in it and the reason why the Father gave the commandment to begin with, and that it was solely based on his love for us. They can understand that, and reasoning from that point forward should be easy. Go ahead, Doc.
Going back to what we talked about earlier, being his image. And you see Mashiach, and you see me, you see the Father in his image, and how he walked, how he moved, the very image of the Father. And so that's how we should be moving. So we can see how many times he gave mercy over and over and over. And the word keep telling you, like, show mercy, show love. You know what I'm saying? Have mercy. You know what I mean? And that's the way that we should be. Just looking at that, like, just right here in Genesis. You know what I'm saying? That's how we should be.
All praises, because we're going to see that even in that, you don't have to employ some mercy because for what they did, it shouldn't have been no tomorrow.
No animal sacrifice.
All praises. So, we got 2 or 3 more slides. So there are some things here that we all should see. Who has given us his word, his commandments, his statutes, and all his instructions so that we may live. He designed us and gave us the breath of life, not one of death. It has always been his desire for us to live and have the tree of life, but the only way for us to obtain this life is through obedience to him out of love and reverence. So we can see this playing out with Adam in the garden. If he obeys this commandment, he will live. However, if he disobeys, he is promised death. We see this very concept continue all the way through Revelation. Hence it mentions the beginning and the end, right? The Aleph and the Tav, or the Alpha and the Omega, right? This is the beginning and the end, and it's unchanging from beginning to end, right? Like it's the same thing. And in both the beginning and the end, obedience is the way to life, and the fruit of the tree of life, disobedience is the way to death. It's the same thing. So, and mind you, this is, I'm hoping that this for all of us in this room, this should be right, elementary, like right? But the goal is, again, study these lessons because it might not necessarily be just for you and your understanding, but for you to be able to share your understanding with another who doesn't have it, right? Because, like I said, we see, man, it's so many of our folks that they are hung up on just the concept of the law, statutes, and commandments, and that they're beneficial. Like, but if you understand and you can convey, well, he gave these to us because he loves us. That's the first thing. All of us are claiming that we love him. If I can convey to you through his word that this is why he gave it to us, and maybe you soften up and actually understand the benefit and value of it. Because we'll see that the first 2 didn't understand that, which is why when they started questioning it, no, he is just trying to keep something from us, right? Like they didn't understand the reason why he gave them the commandment. So, verse 16, it says, and you Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree in the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat thereof you shall surely die. And you Elohim said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a help meet or suitable for him. Alright, so just a question. Could it be that Elohim noticed a change in Adam or in the man once he gave him the commandment? Notice, just look at how it is. He gave him the commandment in verse 16 and 17, right? Don't eat of this tree. And right after he said that, verse 18, and Elohim said, it's not good that the man should be alone. Like, is he looking down as a father would and saying, man, ever since I told you that, you ain't got thinking right. Soon as I said to you, leave that alone, you ain't take your eyes off of it. Notice is the first thing that is considered what? That he calls, that he specifically says is not good. This is low toe. Right? I'm not saying, I'm no elder, I'm not saying that he said every single thing was good, but we did see a pattern, right? But this is the first time that he specifically called it out and said, no, this right here is not good. Like, it's not good that this man should be alone. He noticed something that command once it started to interact with his own free will and his own, you ain't thinking right.
It's help.
Yeah, you need some help. So now we're going to get into the next part because he's going to design a help specifically in a certain way so that it hopefully will help him stay on the path. But when there's a breakdown there, then there's a break, then it's just, it all went back, right? So, like I said, could it be that Elohim noticed the change in Adam once he gave him the commandment? Now, notice, this is the first thing that is low-toe or not good specifically. Could it be that it was something about the man's loneliness that could bring about disobedience? Right? And we all heard the saying, man, idle mind is the devil's playground. Right? That's what they say. And it's some merit to it. It's some merit to it. So, all praises. What was Adam's loneliness in the body, right? They say, you look at it in Hebrew and say it's bad. But from age 909, properly, it's a separation, right? By implication, a part of the body, a branch of a tree, bar for carrying, right? It's just something that's separated from the whole, right? He feels lonely. Something about this loneliness is separating him from the Father. Right, so just keep that in mind. H909 to divide, that is to be solitary, alone. Now, as a sidebar, you just notice how this takes place, like even with the Mishkan, right? Like you divide from the body, and that loneliness, and then what happens? Something about that loneliness. And now you start to notice how you might start getting laxed with things you know you ain't supposed to be laxed with. You start, you let your guard down. You can open yourself up to, if you're not on your guard, you can easily open yourself up to the voice of the enemy, right? You can definitely open yourself up to being separated from the Father, right? Next thing you know, you ain't keeping the Shabbat no more like you're supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, but when you was with the body and the body was keeping you honest, a little bit different, right? You can get that recharge, you can get that, but it's just you by yourself and you stay. It's just like how any predator crouching in. It's going to look and try to scatter the flock so they can pick you off when you get alone. So there's a sidebar to that. Well, we at the finish line now, yeah, so I ain't sure. Yeah, got us this far. We gonna make it.
Finish line.
What's crazy is it's the small things. I should have listened. So I got another one of those little converters, HDMI converters in the house. I got another one and I looked right there at it on my way out. And I was like, man, I should check that other one. But then I looked in the bag and I was like, man, I got it's right there. I got the other one right here. It's cool. This the one that worked better anyways. So I left it at the house. I should have took it. I should have listened.
Damn, we got kicked out the garden.
It's just simple, man. It's just as simple as that. So for your life and death, and I showed death. Damn.
Death of the computer.
But yeah, like it's just something. Like it wasn't no one who wasn't gonna have issues with this thing today, just as I did with crap. Like, all praises, I hear you, Father. Loud and clear. Yeah, I mean, we just gonna read this one, so
Let's go. Come on, get it on
That's
out. Let's go.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's I can see. So as a side note, notice how when we receive the commandments, how it can sometimes bring loneliness to us, right? Has anybody ever experienced that? Like, man, now your eyes got opened up when you receive the commandments. Then you start to notice how it starts to separate you from the quote-unquote world that you once knew. Now it brings loneliness, and then sometimes that loneliness is the thing that's the make or break between whether or not you stay in this or not, right? Like, so notice that loneliness, it is a powerful thing. It really is. So once we learn the covenant and choose Yah, we can sometimes feel this type of loneliness. So this type of loneliness can sometimes cause us to err and turn away from the covenant for the sake of keeping relationships and others with others alive. We want to keep those relationships alive, right? So it was for this reason that Elohim designed the body to be as it is, and why he designed Mishpachah and marriage the way he did. So just something to consider. You sometimes need Mishpachah to keep you on track. So this was the design and function for the Isha in the garden. Alright, so for the woman in the garden. So Genesis 2:19. And out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Why do y'all think that is? Again, I keep saying that all of these responsibilities and tasks that he gave to the man in the garden, it is for a reason. None of this haphazard.
What'd you say?
So in verse 19 it says, "And out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof." Why do y'all think that why did the Father tell him to do this? Okay. Even the doctor. Even but it don't matter, either one.
Yeah, real quick. I'm assuming for him to know that he has authority.
That's one part of it.
Yeah.
All praises. That's one part of it.
As a man.
Mhm.
I would say to like learn wisdom from the creatures, from the animals, like when you're observing and when you're looking and saying, okay, what should I call you? What's your behaviors? How are you acting? What do you eat? What do you do? Like, just I feel like it's like a lot of observing, a lot of looking, a lot of observation, and to be able to gain wisdom from, okay, what is this ant doing? What is this grasshopper doing? You know, what did he create? What did Abihu create these things to do? And you name them according to that. So now we're getting to this woman, you're helping. Okay. Oh, okay. So you're supposed to be helping me. Like just, it's all just, I feel like it's all of it is just based on, I think, him understanding to observe, to look, to see. What am I supposed to be seeing from this? What can I learn from this?
All praises. Is that Karen? My son. Have a seat. Have a seat. Parker.
when my children are putting everything down and they would get to a certain point, I would give them busy work to keep their minds stay on another task other than the thing that they was trying to take their mind away from. So when they wanted to go do something that was negative, I would do what we would call redirection. I would take this where they're trying to do this one thing that can be harmful. I would direct their attention to something else that's going to bring that's going to take away from the harmful thing and give them a more positive outcome, more positive. Basically, keep people from getting in trouble. You know, so when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at because at this particular point he said has not made woman yet, and we know that when he told me not to look at the tree, that don't touch the tree, now the curiosity is there, so he's got to give him busy work in order to keep his mind away from the thing that has his attention at that particular point. And in the process is like Aisha said, the learning aspect, like David said, the learning aspect, and that bringing in that extra wisdom.
So I'm thinking, as a father would a child, he's going to name that child. Like your wife was saying, because he gave him dominion over everything, and that's how I see it. So whatever he named him, unfortunately, he's got dominion over it. So it's like the father and the child, just like he did with Adam.
Accountability for me, I think it was to make him accountable to something.
Let's go to Sister Down again. Yeah.
I'm hoping to come out right. Like she had mentioned, I guess, kind of like paying attention to each animal or bug or whatever to find out the system of how they operate, so he can learn how to teach his wife or family as well, kind of like,
All praises.
Yeah, I think it was Most High was trying to show Adam that obedience is better than sacrifice, and how to be an example on the earth, how to be like the Father in heaven, how to name stuff, to follow, his Father's lead, and he was obedient too, when he stepped in on the scene. Because he didn't ask for a woman, he went to sleep single and came up with a woman. Say that again!
Don't start
He didn't ask for it!
Now listen, today has been a day without controversy.
See all the women in the room,
Notice he came here by himself today. I gotta go home. I gotta have a But now, all jokes aside, it's all of those things, right? Like, we know in Hebrew, names have meaning. And so in order to name something, you have to have an understanding for it, right? So he's by this process, he's putting him in tune with creation and why he created everything the way he did so that he can gain what? Wisdom and understanding. Because there's so much wisdom to gain by understanding his creation. The seventh day, what do we do every seventh day?
Rest.
And why do we rest in this day?
Creation.
Because in 6 days you will create the heavens and the earth and all that is in them. And on the seventh day he rested. It's something about all of this is supposed to be keeping us in tune with his creation and then understanding, just like I said in Kings, like this observation of these trees and all of it, this is how we gain wisdom. We get into the mind of Elohim. It says in Romans chapter 1, like certain things without excuse, because creation itself, it revealed it to you. Right? So, again, go ahead.
Remember from the beginning, so looking at the sluggard, he told the sluggard to go to the ant. It's going back to what we're talking about now. Observe the ant and see how he store up things during the seasons.
So he's forcing him. Like none of these names, if you just go back and you start looking, like just like how we look at the language and you can pictographically break it down and you see, oh, a serpent is keeping an eye on the door of the house. Like, no, it required thought. You know what I mean? Like, I understand for what a servant is to be able to make this word for it. You know what I mean? So, like, no, he's setting him up. Okay, I'm gonna present all these things. I could name them, but I'm bringing them to you. I want you to name them because I'm trying to give you this dominion in my image and in my likeness. Right? So gain understanding. I want you to get into my mind, like, as a sidebar. Proverbs 31, the quote-unquote virtuous woman, right? If you look at the dynamic between the quote-unquote virtuous woman and her ish, right? It says her ish, she stands in the gates, he's respected by all the folk. She can go and buy a field for him, right? He trusts her to do all of those things because he already knows, no, she understands my mind. She's not gonna bring anything. Like I'm not trusting her to go and buy a raggedy field, and then I come back like, oh my, what can I do with this? Like, you done spent all of my money to do what you done?
Right.
Right? Like no, he trusts her because she understands every part of how his mind works. She knows what to come back and bring back. Like that's how this thing is supposed to work. And it's the same thing that he's trying to set up with the man between him and the Most High. Like he's saying, hey, I want you to gain understanding from my mind. I created all of these things a certain way. Now observe it. And gain understanding for it. Now you can name it. And then we're gonna see that he does the same thing with the woman. So I'm gonna keep reading, right? So and the man gave names to all the cattle, all the birds of the air, every beast of the field, but for the man there was not found a help suitable or help meet for him. Right? So in all his observation, I'm gonna leave that alone. In all his observation, there's some myths out there, some crazy stuff. In all his observation, he looking at the animals and he like, that won't do. Right? That's not the pair for me. And what Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs. So now he created the man from the ground. Why didn't he create the woman from the ground? So he had enough dirt within Adam. All praises. But
Wow.
Hey, yo.
so she said Adam was a low down dirty guy.
Like, he didn't need the extra.
No, I'm picking.
Enough to
Yeah,
continue growing.
I'm picking at you, sis. Yeah, I'm picking at you.
I'm sorry.
Could it be that Adam has to realize his responsibility? Another, like a higher level of responsibility, I should say, with this woman who came from his rib, and then it's like, just like what you said, like him having the responsibility to lead this woman that he was given, all under the authority of Yahuwah. So he's leading the woman under what Yahuwah has said. So it's like going just the order of things. Like, you know, he's given names to the animals and the insects. You know, he has dominion, but we're different, like you were saying earlier, than animals in a lot of ways. So it's like it's his responsibility, like a higher responsibility of purpose. You do know that this woman that came out of you, you have to lead her, right? You have to show her and lead her, you know, be able to back to me. Just like you have to be in me. So it's like a full circle type thing, like the order.
When I look at it, you know, when you're missing something, I believe that the Most High used a rib from Adam because it's going to cause him to desire to have the thing that's missing from him at that particular point. Basically, what we're looking at, it's like if you take a man and you break it in half, and even though you separate the parts and lay it down, what's the first thing you try to do? You try to track back to each other. You know, you got that lake and you got the north and the south. that's always going to try to track back because even if you break it in half, it's still going to try to put itself back together again. And I believe that the Most High took the woman from his rib so that he will always be at the point, always trying to be at a make himself whole, basically. Somebody asked me one time, they was like, you know, why didn't Most High just get rid of, you know, the woman and make a new one? And I was like, well, it took 2 ribs to have him still to be whole. You know, he still be missing 1 rib. So I do, you know, that's just, you know, but that's just a point that I've always pondered.
Okay, so remember, you got something now?
Not really.
Okay. So remember that names come from, there's a meaning behind the names, and there's also a method to the madness, if you will, with the Father. So like through his process of observing how she was made is going to be indicative to her purpose. Okay? So I'm going to finish reading this and then I'm going to come back to that point. Alright, so Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahuwah Elohim had taken from the man made he a woman and brought her unto the man. So now what does Adam got to do to name his woman? He got to observe. He needs to gain some understanding on what is this, how does this function, what is this, right? So that he can properly name it. Well, notice what he says. And the man said, so he did just that. And what did he say? This is now bone of my bones. He gained some understanding of how she was made, what she was made, what her purpose was. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of the man. Okay? Therefore shall a man, so because of this, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his woman and they shall be one flesh. Now, what do ribs do in your body?
To protect
He could have took any, what they do now, they snatch a piece of hair, and make a test tube baby. Right. He could have took anything, right? But no, he takes a rib, and it's specifically for a reason. What do ribs do?
protect your
They protect your body, and they protect your most vital parts. Is it safe to say they protect your inward parts?
Yeah.
So is it something about the purpose of this woman and her design that was supposed to, because remember, he created her because he did what? He looked at the man and said, it's not good that he should be alone. I gave him this commandment, and there's something about me giving him this commandment, it's not good that he should be alone. Let me give him something that's a suitable help for him to keep this commandment, because if I leave him to his own devices, he might go astray. So he designed the woman in a way to protect his inward parts, because he already noticed when he looked at the man, something's happening within you and I don't like it. Something's going on within, and it's not right. So let me create something that's going to help you protect that, right? So that's what he ends up doing. And this is the reason why when we get to the future, he's like, woman, what is this that you have done? Like, that's not why I made you. That's not why I set you in this garden, right? So like, we're going to see how it all works out. But everybody is right in that, right? Like, it's showing him, then we can get to other parts where it's like, husbands, love your wives. No man wants to do harm to his own body. You're going to understand how all of this is all working together. He made her in such a way to where it was supposed to keep both of them honest. And now they can both together keep this commandment of Elohim and have life abundantly.
Yeah, that's where I was just getting ready to go. Before we got all the way here, we were already talking about if the Most High gave Adam any commands. And Reed, his wife, was not keeping him from going astray off the commands that was given to him, which was supposed to be what? Written on our hearts.
All praises. So notice that Adam's responsibility was to name all things in the garden. Remember, in Hebrew, nouns come from verbs in most cases. So it's action-based language. Just means that the name of something requires observation and understanding of how it functions. So remember what we saw at the beginning. There is a divine wisdom that comes from understanding creation. So in this case, the woman was no different. She was made and brought to the man to see what he would call her. Notice Adam's answer. He knew exactly what she was and had an intimate knowledge of her purpose because of how she was made. Right? So he understood